Hello my friends, how are you doing? I have another beautiful artistic tutorial for you with a lot of tricks on how I create this image here, inspired by the artist Magdiel Lopez, which you should totally check out. Let's get started. My name is Olivio, I'm a professional designer, and I want to thank all of my patrons who support me and make these videos possible. Also, my newest online course is out for fantasy portraits. It's really beautiful, so much secret sauce in there. I talk about the artistic idea, how I shot the photos and selected them and then created that with a lot of secret sauce and tricks. Even at the end, a little bit of Nick collection for a variation of that same edit. So there's a ton of really cool information in there. And the first 100 people get it for $25 instead of $75. So really go for that. And also, tomorrow I'm doing an exclusive live stream in my Facebook group at 8 p.m. CET. If you want to join that, check that out too. All right, now it's time to get started here. And of course, we are starting with just the photo of this bust here, right? Of this hat. You can, of course, also take a normal photo if you want to. No need to take a bust. But I did that because the original artist did that too. I will resize this a little bit. And by the way I selected this hat from the original photo is simply with the selection brush, which is up here actually. So that's quick and easy. I have other videos about that. You have seen me do this multiple times. Of course, first we want to have that kind of pink violet coloring on there. And you might be surprised to learn that I'm doing that with a curve adjustment. But before I do that, I want to bring a little bit more darkness and contrast to that hat, because then it is picking up the colors a little bit better. So what I'm doing first is that I'm going in here to adjustments and I select a levels adjustment. And I drag that onto my hat with that short line here. As you can see, let's try this again. There we go, short line. And then to limit the white values in my photo, I go down here to the output white values. This is the maximum the white can reach. And I push this a little bit down so the hat gets a little bit darker. And then I will push the gamma a little bit to the right side. You can see the picture is overall getting darker. And then let's see here with the black levels, I will push this in a little bit too, so that the black values get a little bit darker too. All right, so that's already pretty cool. Now the next thing we are going to do is already to create the colors. And the way I do that is simply with a curve, like I already said. So let's go down here to adjustments and select the curve adjustment. And here I do have my color channel. So you can see I can play around with that and this will give me some colors. So the first thing I want to do here is to use the green adjustment, and I push this down and you can see if I do that, it becomes pink. So that's interesting for us. And you can see I simply push this down on the right side. And this is mainly influencing the brighter values. You can see here it also influences the darker values, but in a different way. So let's go over here to our blue adjustment, and I want to have the blue colors in the darker areas. So because in this overview here, the darker values are on the left side, I will grab this point here and I will move it upward. And you can see that this side here is now getting blue. So this is really helpful for us. Of course, we have to play around a little bit more here. So let's go to the red values and see what we get from that. If we push that down, this is going the wrong direction. Let's see what we want to do here. Let's push this in a little bit like so. This is bringing it already a little bit closer. And then let's adjust the other values here. Let's see. Yes, we want to have this. Very nice. So that is starting to look pretty good. Okay. Let's go back here to blue and just play around with it a little bit and see what you're getting from that. Yes, let's move this a little bit back. That looks good. Okay. Yes, I'm getting more satisfied with the result. Let's see. This is also nice. This is also good. Let's go here to master, which is going to be the brightness. And with that, we can introduce a little bit more contrast if we want to. Let's see. Like so. Let's see. Let's push this down here a little bit. And this already gives us a very nice result. Now here is a really interesting secret sauce I want to show you. And that is, first of all, I want to push the curve onto our head so it's not influencing the rest of the image. That's pretty important you do that, because otherwise the rest of the image will look strange and you don't know why. Okay, so here's another thing. I want to bring more kind of a clarity to it, more detail to it, a little bit more contrast, but in the areas where I want to have that. So look at that. I'm going here to my live filters, and I'm actually using high pass for that, high pass. So high pass is this, and when you adjust the radius, you will see that the details are pushing through and they are getting darker. Now, remember, when I have this at 0, this is at a 50% gray. And when I push it in, the areas are getting darker. This, of course, reminds us on how we usually do our dodge and burn, where we use a brush that is either lighter or darker gray. So that means I'm going to set my blend mode over here to soft light. And you can see when now I adjust this radius here, I'm getting a bit more detail. So this is kind of a dodge and burnish kind of way to do that. And of course, we can play around with the other blend modes we have here. So we have hard light. Let's see the difference. Hard light is actually a little bit better. Vivid light, also not bad, giving us a bit more contrast. So try out the different blend modes you have here. Linear light, even a little bit harder pressed. Maybe we should use linear light. I feel like vivid light is a little bit nicer. It's a bit softer. Linear light is a little bit harsh, but let's try linear light and remove it a little bit. So you can see we get some nice crisp details here, and the light looks now a lot more natural. So let's go like that. I like that. Okay, cool. Here we go. First part is already done. Now, of course, again, don't forget that we want to push our high pass onto the head with the short line like this, so it's not influencing the rest of the image. Now comes the fun part, and that is the creative background design, where you can go wild and do whatever you want to do, but I want to show you my process here. So of course, let's save first. So I want to create a rectangle here, like so, and I drag this out over all of my background. So again, the rectangle is down here, and then you simply drag that out, and then you want to move that rectangle below the head so that the head is still, or the bust is still visible, right? Makes sense. Okay, cool. Now we go up here to fill, and we click on gradient, and here you can basically adjust any kind of color. So let's play around with this. Let's select the right point here, and then I will go here to this pop-down menu, another secret sauce, because there's a lot of different ways in here how you can adjust color. My favorite method is the HSL color wheel, because it gives me a nice overview where I can see everything at the same time. And it is very easy and fast to adjust colors, because you can see in this way it goes brighter, in this direction it goes darker, and when I go down the middle it basically desaturates the color, so it changes the tint a little bit here. So that's also interesting. Okay, so let's go here to a dark violet on that side, and then we go to a kind of a soft pink on this side. Let's go like that, maybe a little bit more. Let's see, yes, a little bit more here in this kind of reddish pink here. So that's good. And then in the middle, we want to have a little bit of a different value. So you can click here on this line as often as you want, or as often as you can, because it's got to be a little bit dense when you have too many of these points. But you can create another point in here, no problem. And here, for example, you can see I can set up a different color in the middle. That gives my blend a little bit more variety. Now you might ask, this is going the wrong way. How do I fix that? It's actually very easy. You go here to your gradient tool with the rectangle, select that. That is super important. So let's click on the rectangle tool. You can see here I have all these handles where I have my colors. So I can take this and I can push it up here. I can take this, I can pull it down here. And this way we have already solved that. And when you hold your shift key, you can see that this will snap. So it is actually then a vertical line, a completely vertical line. So that's very helpful. And also you can see here, I can grab these points and move them along that line. And if you look closely, there are these shorter lines here. These are how softly your gradient is blending between the tone, or if it's going faster or if it's going quicker. So when I grab this one up here, and you can see I pull this up here, this pink gradient here is ending really soon, and then it's starting to blend much faster with that other violet down here. While when I move it the other direction, you can see here that this pink is staying around a lot longer and then turning very suddenly into this other violet here. So let's push it up here again like so. And that's already pretty nice. And you can already imagine that you can be really playful with this, have a lot of fun. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to have this kind of circle in the background. And for that, I want to suggest to you that first of all, you go down here, you click and hold on that, so you have the shape list, and you go to the ellipse tool, and you drag out. So you can see I have snapping turned on. So this snaps to the center of my canvas. And when I click now and drag this out, and at the same time, I hold Control and I hold Shift, you can see I'm getting a circle that's at the center of my canvas. And sometimes there's a little bit of a graphic error, but don't worry too much about that. Now I will push this behind that head, and let's see what kind of size we want to have here. We can actually do any kind of size we want. Let's keep this a little bit bigger than the head, like so. I'm not actually using that ellipse. What I'm instead doing is I'm using this to create a selection for me. Why do I need a selection? Because I'm going to create a pixel layer and I'm going to paint on that with my brush. The reason for that is because in Affinity Photo, the complexity you can have inside of a gradient is kind of low. It can't follow any kind of paths. It can't follow any kind of shapes. So you can only choose between these types here of gradient: linear, elliptical, radial, and conical. If you want to have more, you have to paint that yourself. And this is what we are going to do here. So I'm going to create here a pixel layer, add pixel layer, very simple. And then I'm going to hold Control and I'm going to click on my ellipse layer. The ellipse layer has to be visible at that time. It has to be turned on, otherwise you don't get a selection from that. So it's also pretty important to notice that. So hold Control, click on the ellipse. You can see I get a beautiful selection from that. Now go back to my pixel layer and now I can start to paint. So first, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to lay down a foundation color so everything is covered and I don't have any kind of holes in what I'm painting, because sometimes it may look similar to the background, but I don't really know if it's covered or not. So let's go to our brush over here on the left side, the paint brush, and set this up to a nice big size, maybe even bigger. Let's go like so, and then the opacity 100%. The softness doesn't really matter. And then let's open up our color wheel by double clicking here on this color circle. And again, here you have a pop-down menu where you can choose different ways to select color. Again, my favorite choice is the HSL color wheel because it is very easy to understand and you can reach any kind of color on here. So first, what I want to do is I want to put down a nice bright yellow in the background. We're going to do this like so. And so I know the complete background is covered. So that's good. Now, the next thing we're going to do here is to create a rather dark violet, you can play around by going with your mouse over the other color. You can see how that blends. So that looks nice. And we want to maybe reduce the size of our brush a little bit. Let's see what a good size is here. That looks good. I will also reduce the opacity because this gives me more chances to paint over the same areas. And then we can go and start painting. So let's move the canvas a little bit down. The way I'm doing that is by holding down my mouse wheel and then moving the mouse. Okay, so let's paint here a little bit. So we are creating a little bit of an outside here for our shape. And I can still go back to the other color if I need to. And now basically this is where the artistic part starts. And we are trying to figure out what we are doing. If you want to go back to that color, you can simply go here and then sample that color again, like so. You see, now I have that color again, no problem. And I can paint it into the areas where I think, hey, it should be there. And what we also need, by the way, is to have a little bit of a pink down here. Nice, intense, hot pink. So let's play around here and see what we want to create. Be a little bit artistic about that. And let's just go with the flow and see what we want to create here. So that already looks pretty interesting. Let's go a little bit darker here on the outside. And this is where your artistic playfulness comes into action, right? Where you just go around and play around with the values and see what you get from that, and if you enjoy the result or not. And I want to show you another trick here, by the way, and that is right now when I want to have here the edges a little bit more bright, basically, I'm switching my blend mode from normal to screen. And this will adjust the brightness inside of the brush stroke. So each brush stroke you set down acts as if it would be another layer with a screen blend mode. So it gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter, but it is still the same layer. You don't add new layers. So it's a very nice trick to have. You see, I can create a kind of a glow effect here if I want to. Let's go over here and do that with the pink too, like so. So you can be really playful with that, like that. That's already pretty nice, I would say. Let's go here maybe with a little bit of an orange. Set this back to normal. Let's see. Go up here, a little bit of orange here. Okay, cool. Here's another trick I want to show you. Control D to deselect your selection, so you have a preview of how it looks without the selection, and then go back to Control D to re-enable your selection. And so you can have a quick preview if it looks good or not, if you're happy with that or not. All right, so at this point it's important to turn off the ellipse in the background so that we don't have any kind of interference. And now what I want to do is to erase a little bit of the side parts here. So let's take our eraser brush over here, make it a little bit bigger, maybe even a little bit bigger, like so, okay. And then you see here the opacity if it is at 18, I'm softly trying to remove a little bit of these sides here, so that this part of the brush is blending better with the background. Let's go with hardness 0 and then remove some of that here, like so, okay. So this is blending with the background colors that we are finding here. You can see sometimes it's completely removed, it's completely vanishing. Like so. Let's go here with the opacity even lower. Okay, that's nice. And then I turn on the ellipse again so I can make a selection again. Control, click on the ellipse to create that selection, turn that ellipse off again. And now I'm creating a new pixel layer because I want to have a little bit of a dark edge down here. So let's go back to my paintbrush And again, open our color selection here. Let's go for a nice dark violet and then reduce the opacity, reduce the hardness to 0, go a little bit bigger still. Let's see. Okay. And so I will slightly go at the edge here, just a little bit. Control D to deselect and then Control C to reselect. Let's go even lower here with the opacity and then over here, paint on that just a little bit, just a hint. And you can see that this creates a little bit of an edge over here. So that's pretty nice. Good. So with that, what I want to do is I select the background circle that we have created and I will blend this a little bit so it's getting a little bit fainter. And then again, I will also go to the other layer and I will blend this also a little bit. So we are already at a good point here. Now, in the other image, you have seen that it looked like it had a lot of noise on there, kind of a little bit of a vintage structure. It looked a little bit like an old photo or like a paper structure. So I want to show you how to create that. It's actually really easy. The way you want to do this is you go here to Layer and then New Fill Layer. And you want to select up here for the color a medium gray. So let's go here to grayness, set this up as a medium gray like so. Next, right click on that fill layer and rasterize it. Then go up here to filters, noise, add noise, and set this up to a high intensity like so. Click on apply. You want to have this, by the way, also selected as monochromatic. So it's black and white. It's pretty important. Click on apply here. And you can see now we have a little bit of noise here. I want to pull this out a little bit. So I'm selecting my move tool. I'm holding control on my keyboard and I'm pushing this outwards. And what this is doing is it making the noise even bigger, even noisier. Now let's go here to the blend mode and let's see. I think overlay is not too bad. Let's go with soft light. It's a little bit softer and that already looks pretty good. We can apply this with a little bit less opacity if we want to. So you can go like, let's say 65% looks pretty good. And you can see now that all of the picture has this strong grain on it. Makes everything look a little bit vintage, a little bit like a print. And suddenly all of the effects we have created before look a lot better. Another thing I want to do here is, because this edge here is a little bit too hard, a little bit too sharp, I'm going to select that layer, going to Effect here, Gaussian Blur, and let's blur this a little bit. Let's go with 2 pixels. And then also on the other layer, Effect, 2 pixels. So you can see now we have a bit of softness in here. So that's already pretty nice. All right, so now we need to add these other elements we have created before. And this is actually not that hard. So we want to use the same colors that we have in the background here. Actually, at this point, I think I'm going to adjust these colors a little bit. Let's go in here and adjust here our violet a little bit. Let's maybe make this a bit darker. Let's see. That looks pretty okay. Let's see, like so. I'm happy with that. The pink is okay. Let's see if we move this a little bit around. That is good. Should this, let's see here. We play with that a little bit. Like so. Perfect. I like that a bit more than before. A little bit of fine tuning here. Okay, good. So now what we're going to do is to right click on that, duplicate like so. Again, save, always save, pretty important. And now simply take one of these sides and move it inwards like so. So you have this kind of stripe here. And now I'm scrolling outwards a little bit and then I'm holding control and making the stripe longer on one side. As you can see, like that, I have a gradient that is similar to the background, but it is moving in a different way a little bit. You see, it's the brighter parts are going a little bit longer here, so we can readjust that later. The important part is that we can see it right now. And so with the control pressed down, I'm clicking on that rectangle and I'm moving it to the side, and this will create a copy for that. You see? Just like that. And then make this a little bit wider maybe, and create another one, make this a little bit smaller, like so, and then maybe create another one, make this a little bit wider again, like so. And so already we have created some of those. Now I want to select all of these rectangles together. So click on the upper one, hold shift, click on the lowest one of the rectangles, and then on your keyboard press Ctrl and G. This will group everything together. And with this, I can simply now take this and rotate all of them at the same time. This is why I did that. So you can see I can now move this down here and this over here, and I can create any kind of adjustment that I like. So that already looks pretty nice. Let's move this maybe above of our circles. Let's see. Maybe it should be below. Let's see. I actually like it when it's below, to be honest. It's kind of nice. All right, so that is already pretty good. What I want to do here is to adjust the gradient here a little bit, to move this over. So you can see on this side, I want this part to be a little bit brighter. But we can do this simply by clicking on these individual rectangles and then even adjust it in a way that is a bit more, that is a bit more individual than doing it the same for each of those. So that already looks pretty awesome. Okay, now in the other artwork, there was a bit of a shadow in there. You can create that or not. That's up to your taste. I just want to show you how to create that shadow. It's also very easy. So for that, I'm going to use a rectangle shape again. Go here, rectangle. And then I'm using this dark violet. I will delete this middle point and I will create the same dark violet on the other side too, or at least a similar dark violet. And I will then set this side to opacity 0, so it's getting transparent. Then I will go here and set this to radial, so it's round as a gradient. And then I'm going to the gradient tool, and you can see that I can set this up. This actually I want to have reverse. So let's click again on the gradient, click here on reverse. So you can see now it's the other way around. And now I can pull this out. So this circle is getting a little bit wider. Actually, let's switch this over from radial to elliptical, because then I can move these arms individually. And you can see right now they move together. To fix that, I can simply click up here on that lock, and now I can adjust them individually. What this does for me is that I can have a rectangle that still at the same time has a little bit of a radial effect on the side. Is the shadow that it comes out of that is not completely straight, right? Okay. So now what we are doing is simply rotating this to the side, stretching it out here a little bit, like so, and then put this behind the head, of course. And then what I want to do here is to go to effects and give this quite a bit of Gaussian blur, so all of that looks a lot softer. And like that, you can create a nice shadow that sits here in the background, like so. And we can still play around with that a little bit. Let's see. Let's move this, for example, over here a little bit. And then, again, with the gradient, I can go in here. I can adjust this to say how strong that should be. So it can have a rather slight shadow if you want to. So with that, you can make a simple effect like that. And like I said, you don't have to do that. If you feel like there should be a shadow in there, by the way, I feel like the shadow should probably be parallel to these other graphic lines that we have created there. Let's go like this. Yeah, okay, cool. So there we go. This is our artistic recreation of that effect. Like I said, create multiple versions of that, have some fun with that. It's a really playful way and really nice way to learn about working with these different functions in Affinity Photo. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed that, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button, and also please leave a like because that really helps my channel. Let me know if you like this tutorial in the comments, and see you soon. Bye.